Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah wa salatu wassalamu ala Rasulullah. We'll continue reading from Imam Al-Ghazali's Criterion of Action, Mizan Amal. And if you are following the Dar Minhaj Arabic edition of Mizan Amal, we are on page 221. بيان وجوب التعلم لإظهار شرف العقل. Learning is essential for the manifestation of the intellect's supremacy. Know that the supremacy of the intellect lies in its being the locus, an instrument of knowledge and wisdom. However, the soul of man is a source and font of knowledge and wisdom, which was planted in it at the onset of its innate disposition, but potentially, not actually. بالقوة في أول الفطرة لا بالفعل. In the same way as fire is potential in a stone or water in the earth or a tree in a seed. A tree in a seed is correct, but really it's a palm tree. There must be an effort to bring it into actualization. Just as well must be dug a well of water, must be dug to extract the water from the earth. There are wells to gather water, rainwater, or from other sources. And these artesian wells, you keep digging until you reach water. However, there is some water that flows without any human action, and other water that is buried and requires digging and toil to extract it. And the same is true of the knowledge that lies in human souls. Some of it goes from potentiality to actuality without any human learning, as is the case with the prophets, alayhim salam, whose knowledge manifested from the supreme assembly, al-Mala' al-A'la, without any human mediation. These examples, all of them are more than enough, but I like it when there is something the innate disposition, al-fitra. As if we talk about in potentiality, not actuality. So there must be something there that is given, and you need the environment, social context, other context to so that it would manifest itself. Such as language, you need to learn, you need, in most cases, it's the innate disposition, and we talk about language acquisition, moving from potentiality to actuality. Even Chomsky himself spoke about this in his own way. And I said, in most cases, we go back to the prophets. Sayyidina Adam alayhi salam was He had that innate disposition, but he was taught directly by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala the names of all things. Who else? For example, Jesus Christ, peace upon him. He had that innate disposition, but there was no room to wait. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala destined him to speak in the cradle. In fact, the moment he was born, he spoke. فناداها من تحتها, that's Jesus Christ, peace upon him. She needed someone to defend. I mean, why would a young woman who's known to be pious would go home now with a baby? This is 2,000 years ago. He assured her that he speaks, and she pointed to him, and they exclaimed, her family, كيف نكلم من كان في المهد صبيا. So these are at least some of the examples. For most people, it is the normal acquisition, innate disposition. You have the infrastructure, and you need to move from potentiality to actuality through this social context and, of course, exercise. Other knowledge requires long effort to be actualized, as is the case for the run of humanity, especially slow witted people who were not educated in their childhoods and then grew to an advanced age after living lives of heedlessness and ignorance. Then there is knowledge that requires only a little effort, as is the case for clever children. Now, since knowledge is planted in souls, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, and your Lord took from the children of Adam, from their loins, their progeny, and made them testify against themselves. Am I not your Lord? They said, indeed, yes, we testify. وإذ أخذ ربك من بني آدم من ظهورهم ذرياتهم وأشهدهم على أنفسهم ألست بربكم قالوا بلى. Now, it is knowledge about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is before this form of existence in which we are, you know, those of us, meaning from from the children of Adam, as people can notice today, we have 8 billion people only during this period who are living. It is planted in souls. So the potentiality is out there, but there is the Quran itself requires us to look within ourselves, but also the horizons, looking for signs in the horizons. What this means is that their souls acknowledged the aforementioned potentiality, not, not that they acknowledge it verbally, for the verbal acknowledgement was not issued by all of them when it manifested, but only some of them. Likewise, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, and if you ask them who created them, they will surely say Allah. وَلَئِنْ سَأَلْتَهُمْ مَنْ خَلَقَهُمْ لَا يَقُولُنَّ اللَّهُ. The meaning of this means that if you examine their states, you'll find that their souls and interior beings testify to this. Furthermore, we read, the disposition of Allah upon which He disposed mankind فطرة الله التي فطر الناس عليها. Every human being was made innately disposed to faith. Nor did the prophets bring any teaching other than monotheism, and so preach the doctrine of there is no God but Allah. For this would only resonate with someone who believed in Allah despite having misconceptions about His essence or qualities, attributes. There is no God but Allah. ولذلك قال قولوا لا إله إلا الله. And I think this is a hadith, and the hadith, there are several versions. The part that we need is in all of them, so we'll just choose the shortest one, and it is a sound tradition. This is Tariq bin Abdullah al-Muharibi saying that I have seen the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam passing through the market of Dhil Majaz, and it has been said that it is in the vicinity of Mount Arafah, and some said near Mina. There is not really a big difference. I mean, it could be if it's in the vicinity of Arafah. It's a walking distance anyhow. So he saw him in that market, and he was wearing a red. He was wearing red clothing, and he was telling people, "Oh people, قولوا لا إله إلا الله." The what we have here, قولوا لا إله إلا الله. There's a it is augmented تفلحوا. قولوا لا إله إلا الله تفلحوا. You'll be successful. And a man, that part of the hadith is not mentioned, of course, but I thought of highlighting the origin, the original source of this phrase, which is really a hadith of the about the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And the man was following him, and he was throwing him with stones, and he managed to make his heel, like his foot, to bleed. Okay. And this man was saying, "Oh, people, do not listen to him. Do not obey him. He's a liar." I asked, meaning this is the Tariq bin Abdullah al-Muharibi, the narrator of this hadith. He said, "I asked, who is this?" They said he is the Ghulam Bani Abdul Muttalib. Like, who is this? Who is this person who says, "Oh people, say La ilaha illallah tuflihu." Say there is no God but Allah, you'll be successful. And then he asked, who's the one who is following him and he's throwing him with stones? They said, Abdul Uzza Abu Lahab. Of course, that's his uncle, which is very, very sad. When the family, or a member of the family, or part of the family of a prophet, they reject him, they do the same. To preachers, they do the same. This is something that is, it ought to happen. So this is really as we said, the origin of this particular phrase. So, if belief in Allah is planted in the human soul by innate disposition, this means that people are divided into those who turned away from this and forgot it, namely the unbelievers and those who searched their thoughts and remembered it, like someone who witnesses something and then forgets about it through heedlessness, but then recalls it. Thus, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, happily they might remember, لعلهم يتذكرون. That people of it might remember. وليتذكر أولو الألباب. Remember Allah's favor upon you and His covenant which He made with you. واذكروا نعمة الله عليكم وميثاقه الذي واثقكم به. And the last verse here. And indeed, we have made the Quran easy to remember. But will anyone remember? ولقد يسرنا القرآن للذكر فهل من مدكر. Remembering, the commentary of Imam Al-Ghazali, rahimahullah, remembering is how it is most often described. And to call this type of knowledge remembering is not appropriate. And remembering is how it is most often described, and to call this type of knowledge remembering is not inappropriate. This suggests that there are two kinds of remembering. The first is to remember an image that was actually acquired in the heart, but then forgotten. The second is to remember an image that was concealed within man's innate disposition. Thus, the truth realizers, al-muhaqqiqun, they say that learning is not the process of acquiring something from without, but rather unveiling something that was instilled in the soul by natural disposition, like digging up water from the earth or revealing an image in a mirror by polishing it. This is not far, of course. Socrates also had practically the same idea. Learning from without is what it is, the looking at the signs in the universe. I mean, think about it. Al-afaq. Think about thinking, pondering upon the universe. ويتفكرون في خلق السماوات والأرض. ربنا ما خلقت هذا باطلا سبحانك وقنا عذاب النار. The Prophet ﷺ, one of the companions, wanted to kept really observing what the Prophet ﷺ did at night. They were out. Remember that the Prophet ﷺ, in the last 10 years of his life, ﷺ, after the migration to Medina, he participated in 29 campaigns. Not all of them ended up in actual fighting, but so in one of these, the companion kept track of what the Prophet ﷺ did, and he used to get out of his tent several times during the night, and he would look at the at the sky, and he would recite this verse. الذين يذكرون الله قياما وقعودا وعلى جنوبهم ويتفكرون في خلق السماوات والأرض ربنا ما خلقت هذا باطلا سبحانك وقنا عذاب النار. So there must be something innate. Absolutely, we know this. Okay? If everything is acquired after birth, then babies would die from hunger. How you are going to teach a baby how to suckle? That's not, it's innate and immediate. But but knowledge really ultimately depends on learning and the outside. It's the process of learning is inside, and that does not negate the state of innate disposition. These realities are apparent to those who see through the eye of the intellect, but obscure to those whose shortcomings fix them at the first stage of primary school. When their temperaments became affixed to the immediate external meanings of words without realizing their true significance. So we are at the end of this particular chapter, and inshallah we'll deal with بيان أنواع العقل tomorrow بإذن الله عز وجل. The types of intellect in إحياء علوم الدين. Imam Al-Ghazali does refer to more than one source of knowledge. There is one major source, one, he says, باب مفتوح. That's in إحياء علوم الدين. We talk about the sensory knowledge as a, and of course it's not limited to sensory knowledge. This is عالم الشهادة, and there is another door that is open to the عالم الملكوت. It's basically and ultimately it's the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. ولا يحيطون بشيء من علمه إلا بما شاء, as in Ayat al-Kursi. Suffice it for today, inshallah. Until then, سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.